I see what ho, chaps and chappets, Game Chap and Birdie here. Yes, indeed, fellows, and I dare say we are now discussing the latest Nintendo news here. Now, what do we have first, old boy? I understand Nintendo have been doing a bit of patenting, old chap.
Well, they have, but there's a lot of things coming up for Nintendo next year, 15, which is nearly upon us.
That's right.
Lots of exciting games they're going to be bringing out and things like that they've been talking about, etc. And so we're going to have a look at a couple of these and see what they're up to. Now, they haven't just been announcing games and such like, they've also been doing things. And one of the things that they have done is actually apply for a rather interesting patent.
Yes, that's right, old boy. It seems indeed, as you may recall a little while ago, we spoke of Nintendo's internal wrangling and a bit of turmoil there over whether or not they should take their games onto platforms other than their home consoles and handheld consoles. Now, apparently, some people inside the company were saying, no, we should stay traditional, like Mr. Iwata, for example, the CEO. He was saying we should stay to our roots and keep our games on the home platforms, in other words, on the consoles they made.
Yes.
Whereas other elements inside Nintendo were saying, no, we need to branch out onto other platforms too. And of course, to some parts of the Japanese company, this seemed almost, I don't know, heresy to say they could possibly be going over to other platforms, you'll see. But it seems indeed what we have here now is an actual official Nintendo filing of a patent with the US Patent Office that seems to say they will be taking a step in that direction, old boy.
Well, yes, so it looks as though they're planning indeed to bring their games and things out on mobile devices.
Well, yes,
iPads, phones?
What kinds of games are we talking here?
Well, this is the thing, we don't know. I mean, you're not going to be, presumably, aren't going to be able to play a full-blown game like Smash Bros. On your phone, but perhaps they're going to bring in older type games. We don't know.
Well, it seems to me...
Emulator type things.
It seems to me, old boy, indeed, as if we are looking here at the possibility of emulated Nintendo games on phones. Now, it's important to remember, we already have emulated Nintendo games on consoles like the Wii U and the 3DS, because, of course, the Virtual Console is actually just a commercialized emulator, as it were. That's what it does. It emulates old Nintendo games, and you pay for them as opposed to some kiddie downloading the games for free on the internet. So it's not quite like that. But of course, in this case, I think Nintendo's patent would be looking at Game Boy games specifically being emulated on mobile phones and mobile devices. For example, perhaps, I don't know, iPads or Androids or Windows phones or what have you.
Well, most certainly, it's a very interesting idea from a marketing point of view, from their idea, to suddenly bring back, as it were, the old Game Boy on the modern phones.
It's interesting. The only problem I can see there, really, otherwise, I'm sure there's already apps out there. I'm not condoning this at all, or not approving of the practice, but I'm sure there's many apps out there that already allow you to emulate on these devices, perhaps in a questionable manner. So, I mean, if the functionality's already there...
Yes.
Then, is it perhaps wise to go into that business? I don't know.
Well, yes, but you see, it's Nintendo, isn't it? So in their eyes, you see, they think a lot of themselves. They think, well, it's different. We're Nintendo, so they'll like these games and they'll play them more.
Well, I mean, if they perhaps advertised them right and we had a report directly to us on the Nintendo Direct where they were saying you can go and get our games on your iDevice or your Windows phone now, then perhaps the public could take it up, I think. Yes, old boy. I mean, it would have to be advertised well, but certainly it would represent a very unusual step for the very traditional company who usually keep all their games on their home consoles and handheld products.
Yeah, most certainly, yes, indeed. Well, obviously they've seen the power of the mobile devices.
Flappy Bird.
Well, exactly, and they thought, hey, this is a rather good idea for increasing profits. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
Yes.
For them, anyway.
That's right,
That's what they said. So it looks like, well, tell us what you think about that idea. Looks like you're going to be having some very possibly, since they've applied for the patent, some Game Boy type games or similar on your phone.
I mean, we don't yet know the time frame for this. This could be now, it could be next month, it could be the next 10 years. We don't know.
Exactly.
It might not happen at all, of course. It's certainly, the framework is in place for this to happen. It's very interesting, I say. So what else have the Nintendo chaps been up to?
Well, they've been up to other things as well. Now, this might be slightly more controversial. They have done a little firmware, as it were, update for the 3DS.
Have they?
Apparently, yes. You see, now this does things, I'm sure, but one of the things it does is stop the homebrew.
Oh. That's homebrew.
Yes, now what is homebrew, they ask?
So it appears to me as if Nintendo really are taking an interesting stance here. On the one hand, they said we want to emulate games on our mobile phones, and on the other hand, they said, excuse me, but you're not running homebrew on the 3DS. And apparently, there's some kind of homebrew channel in circulation, and what this update does is specifically, one of the things it does, is to kill that and knock it on the head so it no longer works.
Exactly, so for the chaps and chapettes out there, all the listeners, perhaps those that don't know what homebrew is, what is homebrew?
That's a good question, actually, old boy. A homebrew basically means if you like, a homemade application by a certain coder or a group of coders out there, not affiliated with Nintendo at all. This is completely separate, and they'll use certain means to get this custom-made channel on the device that can do all sorts of things, from innocent things like running custom-made apps to, shall we say, more nefarious things like running copies of games, etc. and so forth, which is a bit naughty.
Right,
but
okay.
there you are. So perhaps Nintendo don't like this idea very much, and they've said, excuse me, but you're not running homebrew on the 3DS. Here's an update that stops all that.
Looks like they've said that, and of course homebrew's been around for a long time. And Wii had its homebrew.
The famous homebrew channel, that's right.
Yes, it did some good things as well. There was some handy things that they did.
It had music players and other functions, and of course, but many people did use it, of course, to play, shall we say, less than scrupulous games, as it were, dodgy games. So,
well, okay, so maybe that's a good thing, maybe it isn't. Maybe something people want the ability to use homebrew, and maybe something, well, I don't care anyway.
And maybe most of us don't even have the homebrew channel, but if there are any of you out there that do use that, you may wish to be aware of that news.
Most certainly, yes, the old 3DS update, so be careful of that one.
Yes, indeed. So what else do we have from the Japanese chaps?
Well, as I said at the early part there, they've got a lot of things in the pipeline for next year, games, etc.
Yes, and they've taken great pains to let us know what they are, so we know already that 2015 is going to be quite a big year for Nintendo.
Well, most certainly. Now, what it is, yes. Now, one of the little things that I'm just throwing in there, I wonder if they're going to do another Metroid soon.
Metroid, I hope so. Come to me, Samus, please.
Yes,
we like Samus.
But one of the things we know they are doing, of course, is obviously we've already covered the Wii U Zelda.
Yes, of course. Very
That's
exciting.
Coming up. We've done some video coverage on that and talked about the graphics and different things they've got in plan for it. Maybe a bit of controversy around the cartoony style effect as opposed to a super duper 3D looking type of thing.
Yes, although I did see a lot of comments there saying perhaps that the gameplay was the most important thing to them, which I think I'd have to agree with that in some ways, Old Boy. Certainly, the gameplay really is what carries the game, but do carry on, Old Boy.
Well, yes, so the Wii U are coming out there, Zelda, but of course, one of the other things is Star Fox.
Star Fox.
Now, Star Fox has been, they say that Star Fox should be out Q3 of 2015, which does seem like 100 years out there somewhere, but they're working on it anyway.
It's about time you showed up, Fox.
Exactly. Well, it will be about time for when that comes, but still. Yes. Well, now they said about the game that apparently this game's main storyline, etc., will be structured in an episode type of way, gathering or taking inspiration from Thunderbirds. The old Thunderbirds are go, yes.
Really?
Yes, apparently that's what they say.
I say, I used to love Thunderbirds, old boy.
Yes, and apparently some of the main missions, as it were, will be your standard sort of Star Fox, gameplay and things like that.
Yes.
But they're going to apparently have some side missions and things which will borrow mechanics and ideas from something called the Project Guard and the Project Giant Robot that the old chap Miyamoto's been working on, apparently.
Right, this is a couple of interesting points you raised there. Firstly, it seems the episode-driven gameplay of the new Star Fox will be done, for example, like episodes of Thunderbirds. And if you're wondering what Thunderbirds was, it was a very popular English TV show back in the 1960s. Involving a certain group saving the world from various fates, and they used to use certain machines, rather like Star Fox does. But of course it was also popular in Japan, so perhaps that's why Mr. Miyamoto has drawn some inspiration there.
Yes.
Now, he said that the main gameplay will follow almost like a TV program episode format, with your primetime programming being the main missions, and the late-night programming, as it were, being these side stories with minor, more, shall we say, less sort of exciting content, but still fun to play.
Yes, most certainly rather interesting. As I said, also drawing inspiration, apparently, from these games that he's made.
Oh, right, yes.
Miyamoto, this giant robot thing, and
the guard.
Yes, the guard.
I was going to just pick up on those very briefly, Old Chap. These were, of course, the ones he showed us at E3. You may recall them. One was, shall we say, the best way to describe it was giant sumo robots. You sort of played as a robot, and you had to stay on balance and push the other ones off balance.
That's right.
That was one of the games. And the other one was where you looked through a security camera at your base, and you had to zap the incoming monsters who came in through corridors, a bit like tower defence, and stop them from getting to your power core in the centre of the room.
That's right, yes, I think you're right. I think the giant robot was something about building robots, etc.
That's right.
Sort of fighting with each other. And apparently you could use the gamepad for a view of from the cockpit of the robot. So perhaps they're going to do a similar idea with Star Fox.
I think so. That's a great idea for Star Fox.
Yes.
And of course, Star Fox has seen its fair share of giant robots in the past.
Most certainly, yes, indeed. So there we are. That's what they're planning there, Q3. Now, another thing, of course, we've got in the pipeline, we mustn't forget, is the Majora's Mask.
Majora's Mask,
Now
that's
they
right.
say Majora's Mask, apparently, it's going to be quarter 1 or 2 of 15, so this one's coming up quite soon.
Spring,
apparently.
they think, yes.
Yes, that's what they say, yes, roughly.
And if you're based in Europe, you can, of course, get a rather spiffy custom special edition of Majora's Mask that features a steelbook, a pin badge, a sort of wall poster and all sorts, and it's only just a bit more expensive than the standard game. It's certainly well worth picking up, I think.
Yes, it is. Now, apparently there are going to be graphical improvements here,
Yes.
which are quite good. I think we've showed some comparisons in a previous video.
We have.
They're quite good indeed. Plus new features, which are going to make the gameplay smoother, etc., so forth. So,
Yes.
perhaps an anticipated title coming up there.
Well, indeed, and I do think, by certainly there, some fans will be scratching their heads and saying, well, what exactly does Mr. Miyamoto mean when he says the game's going to be more accessible than before? Or perhaps Mr. Aonuma said that. Perhaps it's not going to be 100% the same as it was back in 2001 or 2000. When did it come out? 2001, I think. I'm not sure now. It was a long time ago, anyway.
It was a while ago.
Of course, perhaps there are going to be some certain improvements and tweaks to that classic gameplay here and there. And of course, we'll be able to find out exactly what they are in 2015 when it launches.
No doubt they'll be bringing information out and things as they do prior to the launch.
Yes.
But it's out there. It's definitely coming out. Those 3 games are in the pipeline. They are definite. But one which is perhaps a little surprising, or maybe not definite, maybe as we don't know, is could we even call it a leak, regarding Earthbound. The rather niche and perhaps cultish sort of game.
This is a very cult game, yes, Earthbound, of course. Now, as you may or may not know, Phileas, a certain internet outlet posted in advance a bit of blurb from an upcoming release of a magazine. Now, this magazine happened to mention a certain game known as Earthbound Forever.
Yes, indeed. Now,
Earthbound Forever.
Yes.
Now, apparently, according to the rumour mill, this is purported to be a Wii U remake of the 3 games in the Earthbound series, with Mother 3 being renamed as Earthbound 2. That was, of course, the last installment in the series. And also, apparently, it won't just be a straight port. It's going to have some improvements here and there too. But, before you go getting all excited,
Yes.
This is very much a rumour at the moment. This is by no means confirmed, and just because it has appeared on a retailer's website does not mean it's final, although it does lend some credibility to the idea.
well, yes, I mean, it's strange that it should appear on a retailer's website like that. Could this be a bluff? We don't know. But it looks, it's out there. It's a possibility, as you say. No doubt Earthbound fans will be very interested in this, and their ears will be sticking up. What's this about?
Yes, I mean, we did previously have a leak on a retailer's website before, which I believe blew open the lid on the GameCube controller bundle for Super Smash Bros. On Wii U, and that was proven to be true. So, you never know, Valios. This could be real, it could be false. What do you think out there, I say?
Well, yes, what do you think? Are you interested in the Earthbound game? Would you not even care? We're just waiting for Majora's Mask to come out and Star Fox and all the rest of it.
For those of you who don't know Earthbound, it features Ness, the chap who goes PK Fire in Smash Brothers, you know?
Well, most certainly. And yes, he does this. And while we're on the subject of news, of course, there has been rumours, I do believe or remember, about possibly another console coming out sometime.
They were, actually. Yes,
There were rumours.
What happened to those rumours, old chap?
Well, they seem to sort of come to the surface talking about another console, and then it all went back again. It sort of disappeared.
I think what Nintendo is doing right now is biding their time to see if Smash Bros. Helps the Wii U to find its feet. Now, if it doesn't find its feet, then that's when I think we'll see a new console announced, old boy. But if they can pull the flagging sales of the Wii U round, and I'm sure we'll have some data for those through soon, then perhaps they might say, let's keep the Wii U going as long as it can last.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I mean, the Wii U is a very powerful console. It is powerful. It can handle some pretty strong graphics.
It can, yes, that's right.
Batman there, excellent graphics.
Mario Kart 8.
Mario Kart 8, yeah.
Super Mario 3D World and other very good games there. Very good-looking games,
But of course, on the sales side of things, compared to their competitors, probably that's what they were looking at.
Yes.
Thinking, well, perhaps it's an idea. Should we try for a new console idea, get some hype going? Or, as you say, let's put in our big guns like Smash Brothers, Mario Kart 8 and all things like that, and see if we can, the Mario Kart Wii as well, see if we can get some, increase our sales that way.
Yes, I do think the whole idea of this Wii U from the start was perhaps a bit flawed when they called it the Wii U, you see. It's very confusing. I mean, it sounds like just another Wii, old chap, so many buyers may still be confused and perhaps not know exactly what the Wii U actually is as opposed to the Wii.
Well, exactly.
I mean, they could have called it perhaps something totally different, like the Revolution or something like, or Fusion or something like that,
Yes.
But the fact they had this similar name was somewhat confusing, I think, but in any case, we'll have to see where they go with that, and of course with Star Fox and the other exciting titles released, and of course, where indeed, if anywhere, this emulation thing's going to go with regard to their mobile phone devices.
Well, exactly, yes indeed. Where is it going to go? And I'm just thinking, we've got it on the phone, but the thing is, what about the 3DS? We've got the 3DS, do we need the phones as well?
Well,
I mean, we've got the 3DS. Why have it on the phones too?
yes, certainly the 3DS being a direct competitor to the phones there. I mean,
Yes.
perhaps Nintendo are trying to take the phone throne too now.
Oh, well, I think they probably are. They're milking it for everything they've got, I think.
Well, why not, I say?
But
Yes,
I
indeed.
suppose that's the whole idea. If they wouldn't have any money, they wouldn't be able to make any games.
No.
Trying to help them out there.
Yeah, I suppose so. Well, they are the most interesting latest Nintendo news, and I dare say we'll have more news for you as soon as it comes up, you
Will
know. Yes, indeed. Thank you very much for joining us, I say. I
Yes.
look forward to seeing you once more in the next exciting outing, my word.
Yes,
Until
indeed.
then.